Hello, everyone. So we've heard about this many, many times. Just get a job, particularly for young people coming out of secondary school, going into college, on a part-time work, etc. Just get a job. You often hear in society, particularly for young people. Years ago, that was simple. You could walk into a place, you get a job straight away. Nowadays, it's complicated as fuck. And I know many people, and this is just the thing. I know many people. I know one person in particular, and I'll tell you this. He sent out 30 CVs, and again, this is not even going in person, it's online, everything's online nowadays. He sent out 30 CVs. Right. How many interviews do you think he got? Did he get any job offers? He got zero. He did get one. He got one interview. But guess what? It was for a company that basically dispatches clothes, etc. It was only once a week. But he was happy enough when he went for the interview, got dressed up, etc. And, it was only a few bob. It wasn't much. It wasn't like he was going to win the lotto. It's not life changing. What I mean by that, it was only for his college. And I know this man personally. He's a decent enough fella he has no criminal record or anything. But long story short, he went in for the interview, he done the interview. And I kid you not, as soon as he was finished the interview, they told him, yeah, the job's already gone. So basically, he went into the interview and the job wasn't even there for it. So long story short, he went in thinking he was going to get it because it wasn't like he was going for the Pope, the president, and the job was already gone. So you can imagine how disheartening for him take what's happened. That's a man. He's only about he was 19 at the time. He's about 21 now. This is only 2 years ago. He was 19 at the time. You can imagine how disheartened that was, thinking that we get the job. It's not that big of a deal. He done the interview and he done very well. The people said he done well in the interview, but the job was gone. He had the interview, but the other jobs again were all very low paid jobs. It wasn't like he was going for the presidency, as I say. And he was always rejected. He was always said, no, we don't want you, basically. And he sent out CVs, etc. And you just get a job, because again, just get a job. It was said to him before many, many times. And, it's not easy, it's easy saying it, but when it comes to reality. And I even know another fellow take what's happened before I go into other stories from other places. But I know another fellow who just came out of secondary school, literally just last year. And he couldn't find any work. He couldn't find anything at all. Now you could find there was a few jobs that basically wanted to be slave labour, that he would get very little for a week's work. He would just be working as a slave basically. He might as well work for nothing at that stage. But long story short, he went in and he had to sign on to the dole. And the dole office like, oh, get work and stuff. He was cut money, etc., because he wouldn't get a job. And he sent out, I can't tell you how many CVs, about 40 CVs to different jobs, and all of them he was told, no, we don't want you. He did get 2 interviews, but again, he didn't get the job. And these were just very shitty pay money, and you didn't even get that. What I'm trying to say, and these are young people, but the whole life's ahead of them, and they can't even get their foot on the job market. They can't even get their foot in the door, basically. So what hope is there for anybody else? Now, we've seen it even in England, type of happened. There was a young fella, he was only looking for part-time work, and he was only going for littles, and they told him no, and he was only going for a janitor, like to clean up on the weekends. But no, they were like, no, we don't want you. So, and he's only a fellow, probably 22, and he had college debt, etc., to pay off, and they still didn't take him, and stuff like that. It just goes to show you that you nearly have to sell your arm and leg to get a job nowadays, pretty much in even the low paid jobs, etc. You nearly have to sell your arm and leg, and it's easy saying, and again, people in social welfare, they don't think about it, but just get a job, etc. Now, I'm not working full time. I used to work full time. I'm going to a college course now at the moment. I'm only working part time. But it's different in my case too if I left, because when I go to college in August, to be there full time basically for a long time, basically. But long story short, when I finish that college course in probably about 4 years time or 3 years time, eventually you have to go look for work, etc. And not a hope for me, because the qualifications, even when you come out of college, the qualifications are worthless basically. You get nothing out of it. I know so many people got qualifications, and when they come out of college there was nothing for them and they had to emigrate, and that was the end of it. It was either work as shitty jobs for nothing basically, after getting a big college degree and after spending thousands to go to college just to not get the job you wanted. The whole society, the whole system is messed up. It's all just messed up. Like years ago, you walk into a place, can I have a job, and the fellow will be like, oh, sure, Jesus, we'll give you a job, you have something here. Nowadays, that day's gone. And things have got more complicated, and they don't need to. In a lot of regards, they don't need to. I understand things have to change and stuff, things have to change with the times, etc. I get that. But, even that nowadays, that send in the CV online and stuff. Like, it's better to see the person in person than to talk there. And these things about interviews, particularly for lower paid jobs, for shitty jobs, like stacking shelves and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. I know people who work stacking shelves and stuff in retail places and in supermarkets too, and they have to go for an interview for stacking shelves and stuff like that, and maybe mop it up and sweeping up a bit. It's totally ridiculous. It's a waste of everybody's time. At the end of the day, as long as in my view, if you're stacking shelves, as long as you don't have a criminal record or anything like that, then you're totally fine. There shouldn't be any issue. That's the only thing an employer should probably be looking for if you're looking for a job stacking shelves and stuff. Just your criminal record, just to make sure you're not a crook or anything like that. But I think it's too much bullshit nowadays, and that's just to put it lightly. I know the person wants the people that employ people want to get the right person for the job. I understand that, but at the same time, they give people a chance. They give particularly young people coming out of sectors, so they give them a chance. Because things are so difficult. Years ago, things were easier. To be told, the work was so easier, etc. The government would run in your pockets every 5 minutes, taking your money off you, and things were easier. If you worked hard, you got your rewards. Basically, if you work hard nowadays, you get fuck all. I know people that when they first started working in companies and stuff, they thought, I take no holidays or anything, take no sick leave, I turn up every day for work, 5 days a week and stuff, and eventually I get noticed and stuff and get promoted. I know one fellow who did that. It was in the company in Dublin. He went up every morning. At the crack of dawn to go and walk in Dublin. Then it was home at the crack of dawn, like literally at night time. 5 days a week, just to say. Worked hard, never missed a day, went every day, was never late or anything. Thinking that would all stand to him, because years ago, if you turned up and done your day's work and you turned up on time, you were okay, you were fine, and that should be the way still. If you turn up and be there and do your bit, that's all you need to do. But even nowadays, as I say, that fellow thought he would get promoted because he turned up and he was always there and he never took a day off. He was devoted to the company, he was determined. But unfortunately, the company didn't give a shit. They didn't give a shit about him. He never got the promotion or anything. He stayed there for 3 years. Done that every day for 3 years. Pretty much every working day. Never took a day off. Never took any sick leave. Never done anything. Just all because he wanted to get noticed by the managers in the company. Thinking that they would say, oh, this is a great fellow. He's dedicated to his work, etc. And they just, they didn't appreciate it. And that's why he left the company. Because he probably should have been appreciated. Especially if such a person that's that dedicated to go up and to work. And I know he was getting paid and stuff, but he was dedicated. He should have took his time off because everybody's entitled to a few days off a year. But he should have took his time off and stuff and it just goes to show he's not appreciated in a lot of cases because he did work hard. He turned up. He went all the way from Cavan to Dublin 5 days a week and spent a petrol getting a car. He got a car especially to go up and down to Dublin to get for the job and stuff. And it just goes to show him it wasn't appreciated because he left that job after 3 years and it was not. They didn't care after. And again, probably the person they took on to replace him probably was worse. Probably didn't turn up at all to work. But it just goes to show you that society's just fucked. Years ago, and if I was an employer too, the thing I would want to see is somebody turning up on time, and somebody that just does their bit, does their best and does their bit, and does their day's work. That's all I could ask of a worker, and that's all I would care about. As long as you turned up on time, that's all I care about. Because I'm all about time and stuff, and of course time management is important, etc. But I think nowadays it's just all fucking a farce to be told in the job market, etc. But yeah, as I say, when I leave college, I'm not going to get into because the problem with social media, and we're talking about this in another video. Probably we'll talk about later on in a video to come, because that's another kettle of fish to talk about, another side of the coin, if you may use that. But this is the thing: social media nowadays has a huge influence on jobs, etc. Because employers look it up, etc. But of course, I'm well known, etc. for what I do and stuff like that. My face is out there, my name is out there. I'm not anonymous. I know I'm not afraid to say what I think. I'm not going to go scrounging or begging for a job. I have my views and I'm not going to change them regardless of who it is or regardless of what I'm going for. And that's the simple start. So, sucks to suck, I suppose, in that way. But it's the right thing. It's the right thing to do to stand up for your values and what you believe in. If you have no values, you have no will, and you have no soul if you don't stand up for what you believe in. And that's important. But it can come to bite you, unfortunately, in the modern world. But that's what the modern world is. But anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.